This chapter was an absolute masterclass in strategic execution and psychological maneuvering. The MC didn't just plan an invasion, he orchestrated a multi-layered campaign for Zhudao Island, assigning precise roles from the Huben Guards, spearhead assault to the Fubo Navy's maritime BBQ support. Genius. Seeing the surrendered nomads transform with new gear, their relief palpable, as they realized they weren't mere cannon fodder, was a powerful moment. Then, the negotiation with Elder Zhao Shi. The MC dangled advanced trawlers in land, a tantalizing offer for 2,000 men, a price Zhao Shi visibly struggled with. But the true masterstroke was the military parade. That lightning-fast assembly, from scattered shepherds to gleaming armored formations in mere minutes, was breathtaking. It wasn't just a show of force, it was a direct answer to any doubts. The Tang and Fishing Tribes harbored, the sheer disciplined power on display. How could they not be swayed? Oh, this is called a military review. It's a way for our Han tribe to inspect the training results of our warriors, you explained to the curious Tang Ji while admiring the neat formations below. The most fundamental requirement for all soldiers under review is to achieve absolute obedience to orders. What does that mean? It means they can only do what the generals tell them to do. If the general hasn't given an order, they must stand like wooden posts, not even allowed to move a muscle. Every single member of the surrounding tour group was stunned. To make tens of thousands of men obey commands as if they were one person. How difficult must that be? Good heavens, the Han tribe's military system, and that set of command systems, using gongs, drums, horns, and flags, was just too damn advanced. No wonder they could command their army, as if it were their own arms and legs. The scene before them was undoubtedly the best proof. However, in your opinion, this was just the beginning, still far from perfect. The army stood motionless for about 5 minutes. Then you issued a new command. Battle formation drill. The personal guards beside you immediately relayed the order, using flag signals. On the shore, Sui Tu saw the flag signal and instantly understood. He had his heralds wave the large banners, beginning the routine formation drills. Just standing straight wasn't a skill. Whether they could fight depended on their formations. The army moved with a whoosh. The troops of each garrison holding their respective military banners high, trotted out of their square formations in detachments. First, they paraded in a circle in front of you, making their presence known. Then ran to the open ground on the other side and began to strike poses, oh no, to form up. The neat uniform red battle robes converged into a surging red iron torrent. The forest of spears and halberds glinted coldly, and the friction of iron armor created a clatter-clatter metallic symphony. The heavy sound of footsteps seemed to pound on the hearts of every member of the tour group. Just organizing such a large number of warriors was enough to make them imagine a 10,000-word essay. While the army was changing formations, Tang Ji suddenly remembered something, and asked with a look of eager curiosity, "Han Chief, you just said these warriors all listen to the general. Is the general that imposing burly man on horseback holding an iron rod? But shouldn't all warriors listen to the chief? Why listen to the general?" You chuckled. Heh, heh. And before you could speak, Tang Yao beside you cut in, beginning to give her aunt an on-the-spot lesson. "Aunt Ji, you don't understand this. In the Han tribe, those who lead troops into battle are called generals. One general commands several thousand men. However, these generals all have to listen to the chief. Think about it. The chief handles countless affairs every day. How could he have time to personally go into battle and fight? So he just needs to tell the generals who to fight, and the generals themselves will figure out how to beat the enemy." You smiled and nodded, thinking to yourself that this young lady hadn't stayed in Kaiyuan Prefecture for nothing. It seemed she had pried a lot of information from those nomads. She even had a clear understanding of the Han tribe's military system. Tang Yao is right. Our Han tribe's standing army usually has its own garrisons and tasks, dispersed in various locations. Once there's a war, I will issue them temporary operational orders, and then the generals of each army will naturally lead their warriors to complete the mission. As you were enthusiastically explaining, the tour group suddenly let out a chorus of gasps and exclamations, successfully capturing everyone's attention. You glanced over. Oh ho, it turned out the army formations on the other side were already set up, displaying one of your most commonly used attack formations, an upgraded version of the boar rush tactic you had personally taught Ye Tu and the others back in the day. In the first rank, sword and shield soldiers formed a wall as dense as a city wall, impenetrable, specifically designed to block enemy arrow volleys. In the second rank, spearmen and halberdiers hid behind the shields, their long spears hissing out from the gaps between the shields, glinting coldly. In the third rank, the long spearmen rested their special 7.5-meter-long pikes diagonally against the shield wall, specifically to deal with any foolhardy cavalry attempting to charge the formation. Archers and crossbowmen were neatly arrayed behind the formation, ready to engage in parabolic trajectory attacks. Finally, the cavalry were positioned on both flanks of the main formation, able to protect the sides and also to kick the enemy while they're down, after the enemy formation broke, or relying on their speed to execute an outflanking maneuver and wipe out the enemy in one go. However, just forming up wasn't enough to make these country bumpkins distinguished. Guests lose their composure so completely. What really made their jaws drop was the simulated attack procedure the army formation subsequently carried out. Under the command banner of the Central Army, the war drums beat dong 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 incessantly, and command flags of various colors flew in succession. The entire army formation, like a giant war machine, advanced forward in neat order with the drumbeat. Suddenly, the drumbeat in the field changed. The warriors in the front rank, with a clang, slammed their shields onto the ground, assuming a defensive posture. The archers and crossbowmen in the rear ranks, in perfect unison, raised the Shenbi crossbows, powerful crossbows, in their hands. At the order from the Central Command, a total of 6,000 to 7,000 archers and crossbowmen from several garrisons pulled their triggers simultaneously. In an instant, a dense rain of arrows formed in mid-air, rising high like a dark cloud, flying a full 400 meters before plunging vertically towards the target ground. The straw dummy targets on the opposite side were instantly turned into hedgehog demons, but it wasn't over. The archers and crossbowmen, with fluid movements, loosed a second volley of arrows, then a third, a fourth. The black rain of arrows shot towards the target area in wave after wave like a tide. Such a dense attack of arrows, coupled with this terrifyingly long range, almost made the tour group's jaws drop off. Looking at the straw men and the ground bristling with arrows in the distance, the few from the fishing tribe were even more dumbfounded, silently scorning the Shin tribe's small bamboo bows and arrows 1,000 times over in their hearts. 20 cannons fired a salvo simultaneously. That scene, tisk, tisk. Then chain shot and canister shot were used in turn. Although their range was a bit shorter than the decisive single-shot round balls from before, their terrifying destructive effect was enough to make one's scalp tingle, even more shocking than the earlier opening salvo. Chieftain Zhao Shi's eyes were practically popping out. He had already ranked these things in his mind. The round balls from the beginning were tools for breaching gates and demolishing walls, unstoppable. The later rotating chain shot was a nightmare for cavalry, sweeping across a wide area, and, finally, that canister shot, my goodness, it was like hail, hitting a large group at once, a cure for all kinds of defiance. On the Tang tribe's side, they also had their own little schemes. Watching the cannons wreak havoc, Tang Yao suddenly had a flash of inspiration and whispered into Tang Ji's ear. She told her aunt that she had previously seen a super large ship in the Han tribe that was equipped with many of these dark, massive things. At that time, when the ship was being dressed up, fitted out, at the docks, she had personally seen many people struggling to hoist cannons onto the ship. With this, Tang Ji had an even better understanding of the Han tribe's true strength. To be honest, compared to these soldiers brandishing swords and spears, those dozens of fire-breathing iron monstrosities were clearly much more terrifying. After the artillery demonstration, the army formation began its Transformers mode again. The tactical columns thumped, 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 forward several hundred meters, showing off some fancy formation changes, and then reassembled. Wei Tu wasn't idle either, successively demonstrating the hollow circular formation, the concentric circular formation, and a large hollow square formation specifically designed to counter cavalry and coordinate with archers, crossbowmen, and artillery, as well as a formation that sounded very sinister, the alley formation. What was an alley formation? It involved arranging several defensive square formations in a circle, leaving several paths both horizontally and vertically. When the enemy charged into a square formation and was blocked, they could only try to squeeze into those paths, and at the center of those paths, was the Central Army's artillery square. Each path had at least 2 cannons waiting, specifically to greet those unlucky fools who walked into the trap with ordinary round shot. This tactic could maximize the power of front-loading, solid-shot cannons, hitting one target accurately, and hitting a whole string of them with one shot. The grand formations on the shore changed unpredictably, dazzling the onlookers. Chieftain Zhao Shi from the tour group next to them finally couldn't sit still and trotted over. Having witnessed this muscle show by the Han tribe, his wavering heart finally settled. Anyway, the fishing tribe and Commander Shin's side were already at odds. Now that the Han tribe had the ability and determination to overthrow Commander Shin and unify Zhudao Island, it was worth taking a gamble now for the future good life of his kinsman. Consider it as accumulating merit for future generations. Han Chief, Chieftain Zhao Shi began, his voice carrying a tone of all-in resolve. I've thought it over. That matter you mentioned yesterday, our fishing tribe, we agree. 2,000. Young men will provide them. But about those weapons and armor, do you think you could also provide us with a set just like the Han tribes? The old man rubbed his hands, his face full of expectation. Hearing this, you already knew what was coming and smiled faintly. Old chieftain, you worry too much. The fishing tribe's resources are meager. How could our Han tribe let you pay for military supplies out of your own pocket? Rest assured, as long as you are willing to provide the men, we will cover the weapons and equipment. You paused, then continued. Furthermore, since you have accepted the Han tribe's conditions, it means that from now on, your fishing tribe is part of our Han tribe. The warriors conscripted from the fishing tribe will receive the same treatment as the Han tribe's standing army you see before you. And of course, they will also have to obey my commands. Looking at Zhao Shi's face, which was a mixture of excitement and trepidation, you added another strong dose of reassurance. Let me give you another peace of mind, old chieftain. Regardless of whether this endeavor succeeds or fails, whatever the outcome, the 4 fishing boats our Han tribe promised you are yours permanently, and that piece of land in Chaoyang Prefecture on Zhudao Island will also be for your fishing tribe's use. However, from now on, the fishing tribe must also accept the Han tribe's administration. If, and I mean if, by some chance we lose, and you can no longer stay on Zhudao Island, I promise to bring the entire fishing tribe to Tuohai Prefecture, ensuring you have food, clothing, and a peaceful life. Old chieftain, you saw yesterday, our Tuohai Prefecture is not a bad place, right? Whether you want to farm and weave or go out to sea to fish, the conditions are definitely no worse than on Zhudao Island. After Zhao Shi heard this, he was so excited he almost kowtowed to you on the spot. Especially your final after-sales service guarantee, that even if they lost, they could find a place to live out their days in Tuohai Prefecture. In his eyes, this was even more worthwhile than winning. Zhudao Island, that wretched place. How could it compare to the Han tribe's fragrant Tuohai Prefecture? Of course, it wasn't realistic to expect him to immediately persuade his kinsmen to leave their homes and move to Tuohai Prefecture. That was merely a last resort. Besides, looking at the Han tribe's military might and equipment, he didn't think they would lose. But having a fallback plan was always a good thing. Thinking of this, the old man slapped his thigh and immediately declared, "The chief is so benevolent and righteous, even thinking of a retreat path for us. How could the fishing tribe refuse? I just don't know when the chief will need these 2,000 young men. Should we send them over directly or on Zhudao Island? Old chieftain, don't be hasty. You waved your hand, signaling him to calm down. The matter of dispatching troops still requires preparation. There's no rush. After we return, we can discuss the details. Old Jiao Shi glanced at the many outsiders around and immediately understood that this was not the place to discuss confidential matters. He nodded knowingly and stepped aside. While you two were whispering, Tang Ji nearby had her ears pricked up, listening intently. Providing 2,000 men, wanting the same weapons and armor, exchanging for 4 fishing boats, getting land. This series of keywords instantly piqued her curiosity. What kind of deal could get them fishing boats? Why weren't they including the Tang tribe in this? The Tang tribe wanted big boats too. And what was this about providing men? The Tang tribe had plenty of people too. Tang Ji was practically bursting with impatience, like ants crawling on her heart. But as the leader of a large tribe, she had to maintain her dignity. She didn't directly ask about the fishing boats, but took a roundabout approach. Han Chief, this army of yours is truly breathtaking, but I see there are already tens of thousands here. Could it be that so many warriors are still not enough for your needs, Chief? Perhaps Han Chief is facing some difficulty and needs help. If possible, our Tang tribe is also willing to lend the Han tribe a hand. Well now, the way she put it, it sounded as if the Han tribe was in dire straits and desperately needed their help, even though she was clearly coveting the Han tribe's sailing ships. This Tang Ji was indeed no pushover, truly a leader of a large tribe, with more cunning than a honeycomb. You silently grumbled to yourself, but your face still wore a gentle smile as you explained. Chief Tang jests. What difficulties could my Han tribe not overcome? As for whether the army is sufficient, I can only say, the more the merrier. The larger the army, the safer the Han tribe. As fellow tribal leaders, doesn't Chief Tang also wish for her tribe to be more secure? The clan leaders of the Tang tribe were very interested in the plan you proposed, providing 500 men to serve the Han tribe for 3 years in exchange for a 2-masted fishing boat. Moreover, this was considered an extra reward, as these soldiers would also receive wages. In addition, there were benefits such as trade and a fishing port, which held great attraction for the Tang tribe, a tribe relatively backward in various aspects. Of course, there was another important reason. The Tang tribe was large enough with a substantial population base. They genuinely had the ability to provide 2,500 men without affecting the normal operations of their tribe. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been tempted by this plan. This was also why you had invited not only Tang Ji, but also the leaders of the other clans. Each clan could easily contribute a few hundred men. Therefore, after you had explained the plan and conditions, a clan leader from the Tang tribe stepped forward to inquire about the details. Han Chief, if we provide men, will our people be able to return home during these 3 years you mentioned? Or must they wait until after 3 years to see their families? An old man with a grizzled beard stood up and asked, You hadn't actually thought carefully about this detail before. However, given that the other party did not yet belong to the Han tribe, you pondered for only a few seconds before making a decision. They can return home. I plan to arrange it this way. If you decide to provide men, then before the expedition, I will arrange for them to train in the camp you saw earlier. During this period, their families can come to visit, but the men themselves cannot go home. There will also be time limits for visits, only twice a month, and we will make unified arrangements at that time. Before the expedition, I can allow them to return home once for a period of 3 days. The Han tribe will be responsible for transportation. However, if there are deserters or if they fail to return on time, we will also enforce the Han tribe's military law. In our Han tribe, such situations result in capture and public execution. Furthermore, for soldiers executed for breaking the EF law, the Han tribe will not provide any compensation or death benefits. At this point you paused, glanced at the reactions of the Tang tribe members, and then continued. After deploying to Zhudao Island, due to the long distance and the heavy tasks, it will be impossible to return so quickly. Whether they can return home will also depend on the local situation. If the situation is stable, I can allow them to return home once every 6 months, with each leave lasting 1 month. Because the round trip by boat takes half a month, they will only have half a month at home. However, it's impossible for everyone to return at once. They can only take leave in turns. There will be no military pay during leave, but the Han tribe will provide round-trip transportation and food and lodging during the journey. When they cannot return during their service, they can also write letters home. If you have any news you want to tell the soldiers on expedition, you can also write letters. We can entrust passing merchant ships to deliver them. For specific matters in this regard, you can inquire with the prefect of Tuohai Prefecture when you return, that is, this gentleman, Prefect Lin Shu. You pointed to Da Shu beside you. In fact, they all knew him. Compared to Da Shu, you were the stranger in their eyes, as this was their first meeting, while Da Shu had been here for over half a year. The clan leaders of the Tang tribe thought about it, and felt that your arrangements were quite reasonable. It was just that the punishment for desertion was a bit harsh, direct execution. However, this was understandable. Even if their own tribe organized such activities and soldiers deserted, their tribal rules would probably not be much lighter than the Han tribe's Han law. They could inform their kinsmen of this condition in advance. If they were afraid, homesick, or couldn't accept such terms, they simply shouldn't go and avoid this trouble. Thank you, Han Chief, for your explanation. I have no more questions, the old man said, stroking his beard and nodding, then stepped aside. However, someone else immediately stepped forward to ask a question. Han Chief, I have a question. If we agree, when will those fishing boats you mentioned be handed over to us? And our men's military pay, how and when will the Han tribe give that? A short, stout, middle-aged man also came forward to ask. Those are 2 questions. Let me address the first one. If you agree, the 5 fishing boats will be delivered to you successively before this time next year. We don't have such professional fishing boats on hand right now. They have to be built from scratch. A 2-masted sailboat of this size even, at the fastest, takes at least 2 months to build one. It then takes over a month to sail from our Liu Yang Prefecture shipyard to here. That means, even if you agree now, you will get the first boat at the earliest 3.5 months later, so we can only give them to you one by one. How your tribe uses them internally, who uses them, that's not my concern, you explained. To them, Han Chief means to say they will all be new boats? The short, stout, middle-aged man asked in surprise. He had originally thought the Han tribe would just pick 5 old boats for them, and they could get them immediately after agreeing. He hadn't expected to wait so long. However, if they were all new boats, it wasn't entirely unacceptable to wait. That's right, new boats. Because they are specifically for fishing, our Han tribe's existing ships are not really suitable, so they must be newly built. Seeing he understood this point, you continued to answer the second question. Additionally, regarding the military pay you mentioned, our Han tribe issues it once a month, settling the previous month's pay at the beginning of each month. The settlement method is our Han tribe's currency. A soldier receives 30 yuan per month, which will be directly issued to the soldier. They can use it to buy things locally themselves, or they can entrust the army to send it home with their letters. After their families receive this money, they can also use it to buy things in our Han tribe: grain, salt, cloth, tools, livestock, seeds. Any goods openly sold by our Han tribe can be bought with money. The clan leaders of the Tang tribe had no concept of the Han tribe's currency, and didn't know if 30 yuan was a lot or a little, but judging by this payment method, it seemed convenient and acceptable. So the short, stout, middle-aged man continued to ask, Han Chief, is this 30 yuan a lot or a little? What can it buy? You weren't too clear about the prices in Tuohai Prefecture either, so you gestured to Da Shu beside you, asking him to answer. Let me explain this. A monthly salary of 30 yuan is considered an average salary in our Han tribe. Most craftsmen also earn this much. Highly skilled craftsmen or school teachers earn slightly more, while those who do manual labor, such as loggers or construction workers, earn slightly less than this. As for buying things based on unhusked rice, it's 1 jiao and 2 wen per jin here in Tuohai Prefecture. Husked brown rice is 1 jiao and 5 wen per jin. 30 yuan can buy 250 jin of unhusked rice, which is equivalent to the rations for one able-bodied adult for 500 to 750 meals. If eating 3 solid meals a day, it can last 5 to 6 months. If eating 2 meals a day, it can last 12 months. Of course, this is calculated based on one person's rations. If used to support a family, then the whole family eats this grain. Even if there are 7 or 8 able-bodied adults in the family, it's enough for the whole family to eat for a month. If the family is particularly large, then eating corn will be cheaper. In our Han tribe, wheat and flour are the most expensive. Rice and millet are mid-range. Corn is the cheapest because its yield is large and it's not as storable as unhusked millet, so it's the cheapest. Dai Shu briefly introduced the Han tribe's salary levels and the grain prices in Tuohai Prefecture. Grain is the commodity that best reflects prices because it's a basic necessity. People can't live without eating. The clan leaders of the Tang tribe, however, listened with dumbfounded amazement. So currency could be used like this to measure the value of food so clearly and accurately, even calculating the value of each meal. This was too incredible. Furthermore, they now had a clear understanding of the purchasing power of the Han tribe's currency, such as Da Shu's explanation of how many people 30 yuan could feed and for how long. As if worried that the Tang tribe people wouldn't know how to spend money or manage their lives, you added at this moment. Everyone, let me add one more point. The food for all conscripted soldiers is provided by our Han tribe. They don't need to spend their own money to buy grain, so they can send all this money home. And when their families receive this money, if they already grow enough grain for their own consumption, then there's no need to buy more grain. You can use this money to buy meat, buy cloth to make clothes, or buy tools and farm implements, save up some money, and you can even buy a spinning wheel and loom to spin your own yarn and weave cloth. If the family has plenty of grain, you can also use this money to buy some chicks to raise at home. Not only can you eat eggs, but you can also eat chicken when they grow up. If you're willing to spend the money, you can also buy 2 piglets to raise. After raising them for a year or 2, you can slaughter them for meat during the new year. If you raise many, you can also sell them to butchers for money. As for pig feed, grass, fruits, vegetables, corn, pigs can eat all of these. If you raise sheep, just feeding them green grass and grain stalks is enough. Sheep grow relatively fast, and you can also sell their wool, eat their meat, and even drink their milk. The Tang tribe members once again stared wide-eyed. They had just heard Da Shu talk about grain, and had gained a clear understanding of the value of currency, but only in terms of its role in eating. For those who had never been exposed to currency, its other uses were completely unknown to them. After your introduction, they finally realized that money, besides being used for food, could do so many other things. It was simply too convenient. And raising livestock, wasn't this exactly what they dreamed of? Every time they saw the herds of cattle, horses, and sheep on the other side in Tuohai Prefecture, the people of the Tang tribe couldn't help but drool with envy. If they had money, wouldn't they also be able to raise livestock and live a good life? Thinking of this, all the clan leaders couldn't help but get excited, wishing they could immediately agree to the Han tribe's conditions for sending troops. However, they couldn't decide this directly. After all, there was still a great chief above them. So the numerous clan leaders whispered among themselves for a while, and after reaching a consensus, they looked inquiringly at Tang Ji, asking if she agreed to this cooperation. Tang Ji had been listening for a long time, and naturally understood the details, especially the uses of currency, which held the greatest attraction for her as the leader of the Tang tribe. Anyone not a fool could see the enormous benefits of currency for trade, daily life, and the people's livelihood. Simply put, the advantages were huge. So Tang Ji specifically asked a few more questions about currency. Han Chief, you mentioned just now using money to buy young livestock and then raising them ourselves. Can this money only be obtained by serving as soldiers for the Han tribe? That will depend on the Tang tribe's decision, you said with a smile. What do you mean by that? Tang Ji asked, puzzled. Besides obtaining military pay by serving as soldiers, unless the Tang tribe can also promote the Han tribe's currency, allowing it to circulate widely within the Tang tribe, so that all Tang tribe members can use currency for transactions. In this way, the ways for Tang tribe members to obtain currency will increase significantly. They can work for the Han tribe to earn wages, sell their own grain or furs and other goods to the Han tribe's common people to obtain currency, weave cloth to sell for money, make straw sandals to sell for money, make brooms to sell for money, and so on, various methods. Even after you have fishing boats, you can sell fish to earn money. If the Tang tribe can promote the Han tribe's currency, then your own kinsmen will also have money. This way, you can not only do business with the Han tribe and earn money, but you can also sell to your own kinsmen, engaging in internal trade within the tribe, earning money from each other. Money circulates, and thus it has value. However, I must remind you all of a very important point. To promote currency, your Tang tribe must strictly enforce the Han tribe's laws for management, because currency itself does not have particularly great value. It is just a piece of metal. It is the support of the Han tribe government and the maintenance of Han law that endow it with such special functions and value. Seeing their bewildered expressions, you continued to explain. For example, if I want to use money to buy something from you, but you refuse to accept money and insist I exchange it for something else, that won't do. If you refuse to accept currency, and she also refuses to accept currency, then wouldn't currency become useless? This is not allowed in our Han tribe. It would seriously affect the value and circulation of currency, and is a serious crime. In our Han tribe, if such a situation is encountered, it can be reported to the authorities. Those who violate the law once caught will be subjected to corporal punishment, generally flogging, caning, and other forms of physical punishment. Then, depending on the situation, they will also undergo a period of labor reform as punishment. The duration of labor reform varies depending on the severity of the offense. Serious cases can lead to a direct death sentence, decapitation in the street, that is, beheading as a warning to the world. Theft and robbery of others' money are even more serious crimes. Those caught will also be sentenced to different punishments according to Han law, ranging from lifelong enslavement to direct execution. Without this set of strict laws to maintain it, currency will lose its function and value. This is also why the Xin tribe was unwilling to promote the Han tribe's currency back then, because they didn't want to implement the Han tribe's laws. Because you had planned to peacefully reclaim the Tang tribe from the beginning, you didn't bother to trick them like you did with the Xin tribe. You simply pointed out the stakes directly. The people of the Tang tribe were not fools. They knew what all this meant. If one tribe was completely controlled by another, wouldn't that be tantamount to becoming a part of that tribe? What was the difference between that and directly joining or submitting? No wonder the Xin tribe hadn't agreed back then. Then if we agree to the Han tribe promoting currency here, what will the Han chief do and what can we get? Tang Ji glanced at Tang Yao, then swept her gaze across the clan leaders beside her, and suddenly asked you. This question surprised you. You had already said so much, almost explicitly stating that promoting currency meant joining the Han tribe. You didn't expect Tang Ji to actually consider this option. Was she a fool? Of course not. You glanced at Tang Yao beside Tang Ji. Tsk, this is very interesting. Faced with Tang Ji's soul-searching question, you had to be cautious. One wrong answer to this question could set off a powder keg, possibly even leading to another fight, which would be a huge loss. You paced back and forth in front of the sand table twice before speaking with a serious expression. If the Tang tribe is truly willing to promote our Han tribe's currency, then the Han tribe's laws must certainly be observed. This is the cornerstone of currency stability. Without it, I can't do anything either. Otherwise, even if the currency is promoted, prices cannot be controlled. At that time, you might live even more miserably than you do now, holding a large pile of money but unable to buy a bowl of rice. Such a thing is entirely possible. So, if you really want to promote it, it will definitely require the strong support of Chief Tang and all the clan leaders. As for the method of promotion, my idea is this. We can first formalize the Tang tribe, dividing it according to our Han tribe's prefecture and county system. Then, you yourselves will arrange personnel for management. We, on the other hand, will establish a market in each county jointly managed by both our sides, and a bank in each prefecture solely managed by our Han tribe. This bank will be specifically for storing, exchanging, and issuing currency. At this you paused. Seeing they didn't immediately bristle or ask questions, you continued. Furthermore, to accelerate the promotion of currency and maintain price stability, from the day currency is introduced, the Tang tribe must consolidate the grain trade under tribal ownership. All grain can only be sold to the tribe, that is, to your administrative departments. All tribe members are prohibited from privately trading grain. Violators will be severely punished. In this regard, our Han tribe's practice is to establish an officially controlled grain station in each county. The grain station has its own warehouses. Whether commoners want to sell grain or buy grain, they can only trade with the officials at the grain station. The benefits of doing this are numerous. Firstly, it can prevent individuals from hoarding grain and maliciously raising grain prices. Secondly, with grain reserves in official hands, if natural disasters occur, for example, if a strong wind destroys this season's entire crop, slashing production or causing total failure, the tribe can sell its stored grain to the common people at fair prices. This prevents famine. Having grain in hand means no panic in the heart, that's the meaning. As soon as you said this, everyone in the Tang tribe stared wide-eyed. Good heavens, promoting currency could actually involve so many intricacies of tribal management. Moreover, one could tell at a glance that the Han tribe's management methods were advanced by more than just a little bit. If nothing else, just the ability to provide relief during disaster years was impressive enough. Because the example you just gave, the Tang tribe had actually experienced it before. Their place was by the sea, and typhoons were frequent visitors. It was commonplace for grain to be swept away by hurricanes, resulting in reduced production or even a complete loss. Once such a natural disaster occurred, if the officials didn't have grain on hand, they were truly helpless. In previous years, when they encountered such misfortunes, Tangji would usually take overall command, and the clan chiefs would act separately, organizing the common people to hunt, gather wild fruits, and catch fish in the rivers to overcome the difficulties. But if they managed things according to your method, then, if they encountered natural disasters again, they wouldn't have to go hungry. Han chief means to say that the common people can sell their surplus grain to the tribe's grain station and then exchange it for currency? Tangji's mind worked quickly, and she soon grasped a loophole. In that case, these stored grains, do they count as our Tang tribes or as the Han tribes? After all, you are the ones issuing this currency. You were momentarily at a loss for words. This idea had also been a spur-of-the-moment one. You had been so focused on copying the Han tribe's system that you forgot the Tang tribe's current situation simply wasn't applicable. Well, what I just said is our Han tribe's method. For the Tang tribe's special circumstances, we can make special arrangements. You quickly explained, then stroked your chin and pondered for a moment. Suddenly, inspiration struck. You snapped your fingers and continued, I've got it. We can do it this way. Didn't we already provide the Tang tribe with some sorghum, cotton, and corn seeds? That sweet stalk sorghum is used for sugar extraction and winemaking. You don't know how to do this anyway, so after the harvest, you can sell it all to our Han tribe in exchange for currency. We'll take as much as you have. And cotton, if you can't use it all yourselves or don't know how to weave, you can also sell it to us for money. Then you can use this money to purchase the surplus grain from your kinsmen. This way, The money can circulate to every family. You can also receive enough grain, and moreover, this grain will be your own. Tang Ji and all the clan leaders nodded. They all knew about this and were aware that these crop seeds were provided by the Han tribe. They had no objections to your method. Han Chief, I know about the Han tribe's brown sugar. What is that wine? Is it also for eating? Tang Ji asked curiously. When Yu Fu first came to the Tang tribe, he had given some brown sugar lumps to Tang Ji as a gift, so she recognized sugar. But this thing called wine, it was the first time she had heard of it, so she couldn't help but be curious. This time, before you could explain, Tang Yao chimed in from the side. Aunt Ji, I know this. The Han tribe's brown sugar is as sweet as honey, and when women have their monthly period or after childbirth, eating it can also warm and nourish the body. This is written in that book, Dietary Therapy and Health Preservation. As for wine, it's a kind of very spicy water made from sorghum rice. After drinking it, it makes people dizzy. Drinking a little bit also has benefits. I remember it's used to ward off cold. When the weather is cold in winter, drinking some wine can make the body warm up and accelerate blood circulation. In addition, wine with very high purity can also be used to clean wounds. After lighting it with fire, it can be rubbed on the body to treat sprains and bruises. Tang Yo remembered such food items with medicinal functions particularly clearly, and the taste of these two foods. Both were very distinctive, making them hard to forget. The impression was too profound. Wine can be lit with fire? Tangji was somewhat surprised to hear this. Wasn't that similar to oil? She hadn't expected that unremarkable sorghum to be able to produce so many good things. Yes, it must be the particularly pure kind. The Han tribe calls that stuff alcohol. Wine is made by diluting alcohol with water, Tang Yao said, nodding her small head seriously. Tang Ji nodded to indicate she understood, then said, Han Chief, if we agree to the Han tribe promoting currency, can the Han tribe also tell us the methods for making sugar and wine, and the weaving technology? I think if we only sell sorghum and cotton to the Han tribe, it definitely won't be worth much, right? If we want to buy these finished products from the Han tribe, then it will surely be more expensive. Isn't that obvious? How can industrial raw materials be the same price as finished products? You grumbled inwardly. But these were all sources of profit for the Han tribe. You see, these workshops, or rather factories, not only increased the added value of agricultural products, but more importantly, they could also provide a large number of jobs for the common people. One factory could lift a large number of commoners out of poverty and into prosperity. You were inwardly reluctant to give this fat piece of meat to the Tang tribe. However, on second thought, the Tang tribe would sooner or later be one of their own anyway. There was no need to be too serious or too stingy. Moreover, the Han tribe was about to upgrade these basic industries technologically, and many existing technologies would soon become obsolete. So, giving some of the existing technology to the Tang tribe wasn't entirely out of the question. Your hands rested on the edge of the sand table, your fingers tapping rhythmically on the wooden frame, as if weighing the pros and cons. Tang Ji didn't rush you, just watched you quietly, waiting for your answer. After a moment, you finally spoke. If the Tang tribe agrees to promote the Han tribe's currency, then I can give you some of these technologies. Sugar making, as well as spinning and weaving. These two technologies can be provided to you. But wine is not possible. The difficulty is too great, and the process is relatively fine. Even our Han tribe itself is still in the exploratory stage, and the technology is not yet mature. To avoid wasting raw materials, this cannot be given to you for the time being. Winemaking, just one set of distillation equipment was incredibly expensive, all made of copper. That was real gold and silver. Moreover, alcohol was also an important industrial raw material, capable of being distilled with dilute sulfuric acid to produce ether, that is, medical anesthetic. Additionally, this stuff was a reaction catalyst for gelatinized double-base propellant, which was of great use to you. How could you let the Tang tribe drink it all? This had to be firmly controlled in your own hands. Besides, the sugar-making technology you offered, though it sounded advanced, was actually still using traditional methods only capable of producing brown sugar. After the Han tribe's technological upgrade, they would soon be able to produce white sugar and rock sugar, and there would still be no shortage of markets. As for brown sugar, giving it away was no big deal. In terms of textiles, they could only weave white greige fabric. The Han tribe, however, could keep the dyeing and printing technology in its own hands. At that time, the Han tribe itself would still be selling colorful fabrics. Your Tang tribe couldn't possibly have everyone wearing white mourning clothes. While you were making your own little calculations, these conditions were already considered very generous by Tang Ji. With matters discussed to this point, Tang Ji once again looked at the clan leaders beside her, seeking their opinions. Most of the clan leaders were quite satisfied with this. The Han tribe had offered enough benefits and had not infringed upon any of their powers. Everything seemed very satisfactory. Even if a very small number of clan leaders did not agree with this cooperation, they ultimately could not stop the general trend. After some exchange of glances and hushed discussion, the Tang tribe finally made a decision. Han Chief, we agree to the troop deployment plan you mentioned. In addition, we also hope to promote the Han tribe's currency. The specific implementation will follow the conditions you just proposed. To this, you were naturally pleased. If currency could be promoted in the Tang tribe, then even if they didn't want to join the Han tribe in the future, they would in reality already be part of the Han tribe's economic system. Under my economic control, can you still escape? You chuckled inwardly. After both sides reached a cooperation agreement, the next step was to discuss the details. However, there wasn't much to discuss in depth. Besides, things like contracts or treaties simply didn't exist. The Tang tribe didn't have its own systematic writing, nor did they recognize the Han tribe's script, so writing a treaty would be useless. The main thing was to summarize the details to prevent the Han tribe itself from forgetting them later. You had Dashu record all the cooperation terms and then let him keep them. Anyway, future cooperation matters with the Tang tribe would also be his responsibility. You couldn't possibly personally manage these trivial matters. After all cooperation matters were settled, everyone returned to Tuohai Prefecture together for a grand celebration banquet, savoring various seafood and Han tribe specialty dishes. Coming to the seaside and not having a seafood feast would be too unbecoming of my status as chief. When it's time to be extravagant, one must be extravagant. You thought to yourself, this banquet was very lavish and exquisite. Delicacies from mountains and seas were all available. Beef and mutton were certainly not lacking. Whether it was the delicious seafood soup or the meat skewers carefully roasted with chili and cumin, they all won unanimous praise from the guests. At the same time, these country bumpkin VIPs also saw crystal-clear glassware for the first time, as well as the sugar and white liquor mentioned in the discussion earlier. They were incredibly envious of the Han tribe's wealth and development. At the banquet, you also personally promised to prepare a bottle of glass-bottled white liquor and a small box of brown sugar for each of them. Not a large quantity, just as small gifts. Meanwhile, Tangji also met your wife and children for the first time. This banquet was originally arranged by Xiao Di and Zhan Ying. In the Han tribe, there was no rule that women couldn't sit at the table. Besides, the Tang tribe's leader was a woman. You couldn't very well not let her sit at the table, could you? The two children were still young and couldn't eat much, but they stayed around the table, eating and playing, enjoying themselves immensely. When Tangji met these two little ones for the first time, she didn't have any presentable gifts, so she had someone fetch some ground thorn fruit from the Tang tribe for everyone to enjoy. It was actually a type of pineapple. You couldn't quite tell if it was pineapple or Ananas comosus, but it looked like it and was probably wild. Zhan Ying, however, was very interested in this thing and asked you how to eat it. Wild pineapple tastes rather sour and astringent, not suitable for young children to eat directly. So, You taught her to make a dish of candied pineapple to serve as a dessert after the meal for everyone. You had taught her how to make sugar, syrup long ago. Ever since the Han tribe had white sugar, you had certainly spent a lot of time figuring out various ways to eat it. In Hanyang Prefecture, you had also made similar desserts with other fruits, so Zhang Ying was very familiar with it and handled it with ease. During the sumptuous banquet, you weren't idle either, making detailed arrangements for the follow-up matters of the cooperation. You told Shoya and Jiaoshi to find a secluded, uninhabited place in Chaoyang Prefecture after they returned, to serve as a military camp. Then they were to start gathering troops, and Shui Tu would dispatch instructors and officers to them. All weapons and equipment would be gradually supplied to them by the Han tribe before the operation. For the Tang tribe's troops, because they were close by, recruitment work needed to be stepped up even more. You also specifically discussed the recruitment process with them. First, let those clan leaders announce the Han tribe's rules and benefits. Then the clan leaders would make a preliminary selection of candidates, and Zhuetu would then send some military adjutants over to be responsible for physical examinations and registration to facilitate future management. The remaining time was dedicated to detailed discussions between you and Da Shu regarding the future development of Tuohai Prefecture. The coastal area of Tuohai Prefecture was where you planned to establish the capital. Both industry and agriculture had to be well developed. Coupled with the cooperation with the Tang tribe, just the series of factories, markets, banks, grain stations, and other public facilities to be built, all arranged, was no simple matter.